Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into another edition of Key Time Sports. It's Key Time coming back to talk about the Western Conference Finals, Game 5, and the clincher for the OKC Thunder. The OKC Thunder are going back to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2012. Last night's game was pretty much a foregone conclusion after just 15 minutes. Because at the end of the first quarter, the OKC Thunder, they were up 30-9. And I thought that the Minnesota Timberwolves would come out with a little bit more aggressiveness, fire, intensity, and we realized that this series was a mismatch. Ultimately a mismatch. We thought that coming into this series that this matchup that it was a mismatch on paper, that it was a matchup on paper, excuse me, but it turned out to be a mismatch because after the first two games, and I said this after the first two games, I said this series may not go 7 games. It may just go 5. That's why I started saying Thunder in 5. And immediately after game 3, well after game 4, I said Thunder in 5. Now with the Thunder, point differential in this series, they were plus 40 in every game. Even the game that they lost, point differential was 40. So we see where the Timberwolves, not too many of them showed up last night. Julius Randle, 24 points. Jaden McDaniels, 5 points. Rudy Gobert, 2 points. Mike Conley, 0 points. Anthony Edwards, 19. Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley, they need to be traded. You need to get somebody, another legitimate scorer outside of Anthony Edwards, because Anthony Edwards, he is not going to be able to carry the team every night and in every series, because teams, they are going to neutralize him just like the Thunder did in this series. Rudy Gobert, he has no value. Mike Conley, he's at the tail end of his career. He should just retire because he has no value. Jaden McDaniels, you should keep him because he's a defensive specialist. He's not gonna give you many points on the offensive end of the floor, but he is strictly there for defense. Julius Randle, he is up and down, and Anthony Edwards, he's there for the time being, but I wouldn't be surprised if Anthony Edwards in another 4 years pulls the trigger and leave the Twin Cities. I wouldn't be surprised. And bench production for the Timberwolves: Josh Minort, 3 points. Luke Garza, 4 points. Nas Reed, 11 points. Dante DiVincenzo, 6 points. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 0 points. Jalen Clark, 2 points. Rob Dillingham, 11 points. Rob Dillingham, 7 points. Terrence Shannon Jr., 11 points. Leonard Miller and Joe Ingles did not play because of coach's decision. The 3 X factors that I had for the Minnesota Timberwolves: Nas Reed, Dante DiVincenzo, and Jaden McDaniels, they didn't show up in this series, and yet they shouldn't even been in this position, because throughout the entirety of the regular season, the Minnesota Timberwolves were just keeping their head above water. They were at the 7th spot for most of this season. Like I've been saying, Minnesota Timberwolves this season, they were a fluke to get to the Western Conference Finals. They were. They benefited from inferior competition with the Lakers and the Warriors. Before then, they were at the 7th spot with 20 games left, and they had to rally the troops and win 13 of their remaining 20 games to even get into the playoffs. So Minnesota, the last 4 playoff outings, you've lost to the Thunder, you've lost to the Grizzlies, you lost to the Mavericks, and you have lost to the Nuggets. 4 years of playoff or 4 years of consecutive playoff exits for the Minnesota Timberwolves, somebody is going to have to be traded. I don't know who it's going to be, but I'm pretty sure in the next, I'm going to say, week and a half to 2 weeks, you're going to start hearing some player movement that comes out of Minnesota because I always say this. If you go to the playoffs 4 straight years and you get knocked out of the playoffs every year, somebody is destined to move. Whether it's from retirement, a trade, a 3-team trade, whatever it is, somebody is destined to move. And some of these players that are on the Timberwolves bench, they need to be let go too. Leonard Miller, throughout the season, he didn't give them much value. Joe Ingles, he didn't give them much value. Also, the X Factor, Dante DiVincenzo, he's another one. Didn't give them much value in this series than when he did in the Warriors and the Lakers series, especially the Lakers series. So the Timberwolves, their future outlook is tough. It is because you have both LA teams out there, Oklahoma coming back, Houston Rockets, then you have the Denver Nuggets, and you also have a couple of sleeper teams that will be on the rise, but I will talk about that later on in the year. But one thing, Minnesota Timberwolves, I don't see them getting back to the Western Conference Finals. Now, I said this about the Dallas Mavericks last year when they got to the NBA Finals, and you see where they at. The year-to-year turnover when it comes to an NBA team is very, 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 very drastic because it could be from a couple of players here that could get you to the championship, and the subtraction of those 2 or 3 players going to different teams, then your team looks very different. And that's what I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to look like come the fall when the NBA season starts back up. This team is going to look very different. Anthony Edwards is still going to be at the helm, but do I see Julius Randle coming back? Maybe, maybe not. Jaden McDaniels, he will be back. Rudy Gobert, they got some decisions to make on Rudy Gobert because his contract, he has a bad contract. And outside of all of that, for the Timberwolves, their offseason starts right now. So, Timberwolves, you got some major decisions to make to try and still be competitive, because there are some new teams that are coming in the fold, and new teams that have more advantages than the Timberwolves have. So that's all I got to say about the Minnesota Timberwolves. As far as the Oklahoma City Thunder, this has been, I'm going to say, 13 years in the making, because last time the OKC Thunder was in the finals was 2012. And like I've been saying all throughout the season, the Thunder, they have just been a team that has a balance, and I do mean a balanced starting five. When you look at the statistics from last night, Chet Holmgren, 22 points. Jalen Williams, 19 points. Isaiah Hartenstein, 8 points. SGA, 34. Luguez Dort, 12 points. Now, Chet Holmgren, there were 2 months during the season where he couldn't even walk. So for him to be playing last night, that was a success story in and of itself. Also, bench production. Now, bench production last night for the Thunder, they really didn't need them. They really did not need them, because the Thunder, it was a foregone conclusion. The Thunder, they came out and they said that we're not getting back on the plane and going back to Minnesota, because that's exactly the way that they played. They played with an aggressive attitude and saying that the series is going to end tonight, and that's exactly what transpired last night. Bench production for the Thunder: Jalen Williams, 0 points. Dylan Jones, 0 points. Ozami Dean, 3 points. Kenrich Williams, Kenrich Williams, 0 points. Alex Caruso, 8 points. Isaiah Joe, 11 points. Aaron Wiggins, 0 points. Kaysen Wallace, 5 points. AJ Mitchell, 12 points. Now now for the statistics. One thing I can say is the Thunder, they are the most deserving team when it comes to a championship. Because I could just say in the last 10 years, they have been they have had championship teams, but they got to that threshold and they weren't able to deliver the goods, but they delivered the goods last night. They did. Cause I remember when they had Durant and stuff. A lot of championship appearances, but a lot of failed opportunities. They did not make it back to the NBA Finals after 2012. Now they ran into some good teams, and they had some that they had the worst luck on their side. But now the Thunder, it's their championship to lose. That's all it is. It's their championship to lose. Now, one thing that I can see, even though that the Eastern Conference Finals aren't over, but they might be over after tonight. I could see the Thunder and the potential NBA Finals series matchup is the Thunder and the Pacers. Now, one thing about the Thunder, they have the top defense in the NBA. Pacers, they have a top five offense in the NBA. So something has got to give if it turns out to be those two. And if it turns out to be the New York Knicks and OKC Thunder, that is gonna be that's gonna be a blowout in and of itself because the Thunder advantages that the Thunder have when it comes to playing the Pacers or the Knicks, whoever it may be coming out of the East, the Thunder, they have better bench production than both of those teams. Now, the Thunder, they may have a tough time with the Pacers because the Pacers bench is like right up there with them, but the Thunder, they have the upper hand when it comes to as far as bench production and consistent bench production. Now, this this matchup, this final series, the potential final series matchup will be interesting. This is going to be against two this is going to be two teams that have never won a championship. If the Pacers handle business tonight, it will be the Thunder and the Pacers. Both of those teams have never won a championship. So somebody is going to become a champion in this final series. That's all I got to say for the Minnesota Timberwolves and the OKC Thunder. Congratulations, OKC Thunder, on making it to the NBA Finals. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, your offseason starts right now, and you have decisions to make. You do. You have some critical decisions to make. The next game I'm going to cover is the Pacers and New York Knicks. Pacers and New York Knicks. We all know that the Knicks have been one of those teams that they have they have thrived under pressure when their backs are up against the wall. But one thing I can say is this team, the Knicks, they are different. They are different, and the Pacers, I believe the Pacers, they are going to try and come and win this series tonight. But if they don't, the Pacers will win the series on Saturday. But do I think that this series is going to go to a sixth game, let alone a seventh game? No, I do not, because I think that the New York Knicks, the starting five, I believe that they are going to get wore out tonight. I believe they're gonna get wore out, and when it comes to those specific times in the fourth quarter, the New York Knicks, they just don't have enough players. They just don't. You don't their bench. I said that they were the worst bench in the league because none of their guys that come off the bench give them no value. Mitchell Robinson, the center, the starting center, he doesn't give the Knicks no value. I mean, it has gotten to a point where in the fourth quarter, the Pacers are deliberately fouling Mitchell Robinson just to slow the game down. And for the Knicks, for the Knicks, they need to keep the game. They need to slow down the game and keep it in the high 90s or the low hundreds. Because if they get it past 110, the New York Knicks aren't winning this game if it get past 110 as far as scoring concerned. Because the Knicks, they don't have the players to keep up with Tyrese Halliburton, Obi Toppin, Pascal Siakam, TJ McConnell, and a few more other guys that can come off the bench. Five guys can come off the bench for the Pacers and put up 15 points if they need to. The Knicks, they don't have nobody that can come off the bench and put up that many points. So this series, if it's not over tonight, it will be over in Game 6. But I can say this: if the Pacers wind up losing Game 6, then the New York Knicks they gonna win. They gonna win the series in a seventh game because I just don't see the Pacers. I just don't see the Pacers somehow coming back from well coming back from losing Game 5 and 6 to even keep the New York Knicks season afloat. I don't see that. But if it were to happen, that would be the second time in NBA history that a team that has been down 3-1 has come back to win a playoff series. Do I see that happening? It remains to be seen as of now, right now at 10:17 a.m. on Thursday, May 29, 2025. The point spread for the Pacers New York Knicks Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals is New York at 4.5 points. Do I think New York Knicks are going to cover? Who knows? They might, and then they could come out there and lay an egg tonight. They could. At this point, I'm just ready for the NBA Finals. Now, if the series does end tonight, we will have a 6 day break between the conference finals round and the NBA Finals round. So players rest up for OKC Thunder. The players, they are going to rest up. I believe that OKC, they are going to pretty much rest up for the rest of this week and start practicing for the NBA Finals on Monday. That's one thing. That's one thing that their scheduling crew has said already, that they were just going to rest for the rest of the week, and then Monday they are going to come and practice for the NBA Finals. Whoever they play, Pacers possibly win tonight, face OKC. New York Knicks, if they win tonight, they keep their season alive for another game. So with that, those are my reactions to the Western Conference Finals, Minnesota Timberwolves and the OKC Thunder, and my predictions for tonight's Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, click the notification bell to get notified of all of my reaction videos, shows, and other content. Also, we are doing an expansion on YouTube right now. We are at 222 subscribers. By the end of the year, we want to get to 20,000 plus. We want to get to 20,000 plus by the end of the year, and by the start of the NFL season, I believe that we can eclipse 20,000. I do, because we got so much pull over here. We got so much pull. Also, I got so many other things in motion right now. I'm working on an online clothing store. I'm about to take this thing globally, and I want everybody to be here for the ride. So please like, comment, share, subscribe. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Key Time Sports on YouTube, and also go follow my other show, Key City Sports, on Instagram. On Instagram. So you do not want to miss any other content that I have in store for the next few months, because next few months we got NBA finals coverage around the corner. Then after that we have NBA free agency coverage, then NFL OTAs and minicamp. Then we have the NFL. We have the series. Yes, I'm gonna bring the series back. The NFL teams with plenty to prove season preview. That's the preview that I will be doing in late July. Late July. And then we have preseason in August and September, football season. So the schedule is gonna be pretty jam packed. I'm gonna be doing a whole lot more live streams right after games and stuff when it comes to football season. And come on, everybody, come on, join this ride, because I ain't going nowhere. This ain't going nowhere. We are taking this thing to new heights. Year after year after year, we gonna take this thing to new heights. We are going to show you that this is going to improve. And also, I also am a reliable source. Just remember that. Remember that, America. Remember that, wherever you may be watching. Key Town Sports and Key City Sports is a reliable source. So if you need breaking news or up to the minute analysis, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or watch my shows. And with that, that's all I have for today. Remember, everybody, one last thing: the key is always on time.